Today, we're going to explore the major theories of Karl von Clausewitz, one of the most influential military theorists in history. His ideas about war and strategy have shaped how we understand conflict and continue to be relevant in both historical and modern contexts. We'll cover his major theories, including the relationship between war and policy, the concepts of absolute and real war, and more. So, let's dive right in. Clausewitz's work, particularly his seminal book on war, is foundational in military theory. His theories address various aspects of war, strategy, and politics. Today, we'll break down some of his most significant contributions. Let's start with one of his core ideas: war as an instrument of policy. Clausewitz famously stated that war is a continuation of policy by other means. This means that war isn't an isolated phenomenon but is deeply intertwined with political objectives. Essentially, war is a tool used by states to achieve their political goals. Here's a closer look at this theory and its implications. Clausewitz emphasized that the aim of war must align with the political objectives of a nation. For instance, when American troops landed in South Vietnam in 1965, it was a test of differing interpretations of Clausewitz's doctrine. While Clausewitz and Mao Zedong both stressed the link between politics and military action, the American view traditionally saw war and politics as separate. This led to conflicting strategies and objectives, illustrating how war can be influenced by varying political perspectives. Another key aspect of Clausewitz's theory is the relationship between war and policy. Clausewitz argued that war should not be viewed as an independent entity but as a political instrument. This means that the nature and conduct of war are shaped by political objectives. For example, during the Korean War, General Douglas MacArthur wanted to expand the conflict into North Korea and China, which was contrary to President Truman's strategy of limited war. MacArthur's dismissal highlighted how policy decisions directly influence military strategies and outcomes. During the Gulf Wars, we saw the central role of the White House in shaping policy, with military strategy being a reflection of political decisions. This underscores Clausewitz's idea that the nature of war is shaped by political considerations. Clausewitz also argued that the nature of the policy affects the nature of the war. A powerful and grand policy will likely result in a more intense and potentially absolute war. Conversely, flawed or poorly conceived policies can lead to disastrous outcomes. For instance, Clausewitz cited the French Revolutionary Wars as an example where the success of the revolution was partly due to the erroneous policies of the French government. Clausewitz believed that war occurs when political negotiations fail to resolve a conflict. Once war begins, it creates a new reality governed by its own rules. War, in Clausewitz's view, is a continuation of political intercourse, albeit with different means. This shift from diplomacy to conflict marks a significant change in how disputes are managed. Clausewitz's theory also outlines specific demands for conducting war. At the outset of any conflict, its character and objectives should be clearly defined based on the political context. This involves understanding both your own and the enemy's political goals. Effective planning requires assessing the character of the government, its power, and the potential effects of the war on both sides. Conflicts between military and political interests should be avoided, and no war should commence without a clear understanding of its objectives and expected outcomes. Now, let's explore Clausewitz's concepts of absolute war and real war. Clausewitz described absolute war as a theoretical concept, a war stripped of all practical limitations. In this idealized version of war, there are no constraints from human weaknesses, friction, or incomplete information. Plans are executed flawlessly, and all resources are available from the start. However, Clausewitz acknowledged that absolute war is more of a logical fantasy, rather than a practical reality. It represents an idealized state that cannot be fully achieved due to the complexities of real-world conflict. Today's advanced military technologies, such as precision weapons and unmanned combat vehicles, might seem to bring us closer to this idealized concept of absolute war. However, real-world limitations and unpredictable factors always come into play, making pure, absolute war unattainable. On the other hand, Clausewitz's concept of real war refers to the actual conduct of war as influenced by practical constraints. Real war is characterized by its limitations, unpredictability, and dependence on political context. It involves protracted conflict with human limitations and incomplete preparations, contrasting sharply with the theoretical notion of absolute war. Let's now discuss Clausewitz's theories on the strategy of war, starting with grand strategy. Clausewitz believed that war is affected by a complex interplay of political, economic, psychological, and military forces. He noted that wars in his time were no longer about limited dynastic claims but involved the entire nation and its existential interests. As historian Rothfels noted, Clausewitz recognized that the nature of war had evolved, with new social forces and national integration leading to conflicts of greater scope and intensity. Clausewitz's concept of the center of gravity is another critical theory. The center of gravity is the focal point of an enemy's strength, be it military, political, social, or economic. By targeting this center, you can potentially collapse the entire structure of the enemy's power. For example, historical figures like Alexander the Great and Frederick the Great focused on their armies as their centers of gravity. During World War II, Allied leaders had to identify key strategic points to secure victory. Clausewitz's trinity consists of passion, chance, and reason. Passion represents the emotional drive for war, chance involves the unpredictable elements of conflict, and reason relates to strategic planning. Each element connects with different societal institutions, the people, the army, and the government. Clausewitz's ideas on friction and the fog of war highlight the complexities and uncertainties of conflict. Friction refers to the unforeseen challenges and errors that arise during war, while the fog represents incomplete and often inaccurate information. During the Gulf War, advanced technology helped reduce the effects of the fog, but in Normandy, the initial landings faced significant friction due to misdrops. Clausewitz also discussed the concept of military genius, which he defined as a highly developed aptitude for military leadership. It involves a combination of mental skills, character qualities, and strategic insight. Napoleon's effective use of artillery and innovative tactics during the siege of Toulon exemplify such genius. Finally, let's explore the culminating point in warfare. In an attack, it's the point where the offensive reaches its maximum effectiveness and risks overextension if pushed further. The key to a successful attack is achieving decisive objectives before reaching this point. Conversely, in defense, the goal is to recognize when the attack's strength is diminishing and be ready to transition to the offensive. To sum up, Karl von Clausewitz's theories offer deep insights into the nature of war and strategy. His ideas about the relationship between war and policy, the nature of absolute and real war, and various strategic concepts continue to influence military thought and practice today. If you enjoyed this exploration of Clausewitz's theories, be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay updated with our latest content.